We started to get ready for our first snowstorm of the season. Last year we didn't get any snow. This year we've had back-to-back snowstorms, so we've been really lucky that we finally got the wood stove installed because it keeps us so much warmer and it really helps to make the house cozy when we get these snowstorms.
So we finally got some snow today. Probably only going to get about an inch, we'll see.
Since we live in a tiny house on wheels, we don't have a ton of storage, but we've figured out how we can use some of our outdoor bins to keep firewood of different sizes so that we always have a good stock.
And just fill up the bin. Yeah, normal size. Seems small, but it's not that big of a deal to do. About the size of my fist is what you're looking for. But yeah, this will last a while. And then it's really not a big deal to just process more and throw some back in there, top it off. But I have to say the wood stove really changes the game for a tiny house. In the winter, it makes it actually fun. We were actually looking forward to some snow. But yeah, we'll get the fire going. And Redford's ready for the fire. And another thing I like to do is I do use the compressed bricks. Really helps for getting the fire going. It's such a small area that helps with just bringing the heat up, and then you can just throw the wood in there and it's just less of a fuss. So what the compressed brick helps me do is I just pack it up. And just another thing I would recommend are these like welding gloves or some thick glove, insulated glove. These are great though, so if you're putting more wood in or anything, it's long enough so you don't hit yourself on the side of the door or anything. I'm just lighting that fire starter right in the beginning.
Well, in the beginning, we had heard people that said don't overpack this stove, but then we were only putting like a little bit of wood in there to try to start the fire.
Yeah.
And I think this actually has worked better.
And I think it's healthier for the stove, less creosote, because it gets the burning temperature quicker.
It gets hot fast, yeah. It looks pretty good now.
Yeah, it'll do it. And then I'll just close that a little bit, open up everything.
Redford's cozy.
Yeah.
Look at him. Are you warm? Okay. Should
Not
I
yet.
tuck you in with a blanket? He's like, come on, fire.
So in the very beginning of the burn, you'll get some smoke, but once it heats up, you won't even know it's on. I showed you before when we first started it, you could see the smoke coming out of the wood burning stove. But now that it's at operating temperature, you can barely tell that it's on. If there is any smoke, and you really can't even smell it. So,
If I look really close at it, I can just see like heat waves right above the stove outlet, but yeah, I can't see any smoke.
No, it's pretty kooky. It makes wintertime more fun.
Well, we don't have to worry that the power is going to go out, because we used to always be worried if the power went out, we'd be in trouble.
Yeah.
And now it's not really a concern. So when it snows, we're actually kind of excited.
Yeah.
Well, he's excited.
Yeah.
Oh, you're so fast.
Snow doggy time.
There's a snow doggy angel.
Yeah. day.
Oh yeah, beach day. Looks a lot different than when we had the kayaks here last time. Heading back to the tiny house. A short walk is over. We're freezing.
Well, the one thing too, like you hear that, that's the furnaces of everybody else.
Our neighbors' furnaces. It's the nice thing about the wood stove. It's quiet when you're heating the house. You don't get the noise of a furnace.
Yeah. The stove is on.
Fire's still going. Yeah. You wanna go inside, Red?
Yeah, he's cold.
Yeah, I'm cold too. Last year it didn't snow at all. So this is the first snow we've had in well over a year. And I think that quick little 20-minute walk was good. I'm good. I got my fill of snow. Now I'm freezing. I want to go in and warm up. It feels good.
Yeah.
One of the best things about the wood stove is that it does so many jobs. It's all wet. It heats the house. We can hang up our wet clothes and have them dry in front of the fire, and then we can also cook on it. It was continuing to snow and the temperatures were getting colder, so we decided to stay in the tiny house for the rest of the night, and I started to think about what I wanted to cook. So the wood stove is going pretty well right now, and I put some sweet potatoes, and right now there are sweet potatoes in the oven for the next thing that I want to make, some sweet potato muffins. But right now I've got a couple things going on in the kitchen. Hello, Redford. It's gonna be in my way. So I had been asked to show in a little bit more detail how I do my microgreens, and those are chia seeds that are growing right there. But I'm gonna start another dish of alfalfa sprouts. So I'll show you how I do that, and then I very bravely got another kombucha SCOBY so I can do the fermented tea kombucha. I had tried this over the summer and one of the bottles actually exploded, like when I took the cap off, to the point where there was stuff on the ceiling, stuff on the curtain. It was everywhere. It made such a mess that I threw it out and I was like, okay, I'm done with that. But feeling brave. We're going to try it again. We're going to try to make a green tea kombucha and see how that goes now that I am a little bit wiser, and hopefully it doesn't explode. That sound that you can hear is actually the sweet potatoes sizzling in the oven on the wood stove. So I'm going to start the alfalfa seeds, and I just have this old glass Pyrex that I use, but sometimes I use a little plastic tray too. I fold up a paper towel, I stick that in the bottom. I'm going to get a little bit of water from the Berkey. You want to use good, something filtered, because you're going to eat these, so you don't want anything weird from your water. And then this is the 10-ounce bag of alfalfa seeds. I literally just sprinkle them on the top, like that. And then I'll put it on the windowsill and water it, tiny bit of water maybe every other day. I'll kind of check the side of the paper towel to make sure that it's still damp, and hopefully it will look like these in a couple days. We're really, like, realistically like 10 to 12 days, although since we are kind of in the middle of January right now, I've noticed with less light, the greens have been growing a lot slower than they were in the summer and the fall. They were pretty quick. They're a little slower right now, but they're still working pretty decently. We got welding gloves, which have been so super helpful with managing the wood stove, because this thing's hot. Even just kind of opening it and putting wood in, it's pretty hot, but it also helps with handling the stuff that's in the stove or the oven. Okay, they might be done. Let's see. Pretty good. Alright, so on to making the kombucha. I'm going to let these cool for a little bit because they're super hot right now, and then we'll start the kombucha. Here's the stuff for making the kombucha. Really large glass container, has to be glass. Paper towel with a string that's going to cover it while it's fermenting. These are my tea bags. You have to have tea that has caffeine in it. This is the SCOBY, that's the essential part. It has the bacteria that's actually going to do the fermentation. You can get them for a few dollars on Amazon. And then here's the sugar. I think you're supposed to actually use a full cup of sugar. I don't quite have a cup. We don't really keep a ton of sugar in the house, but it has to be regular sugar to feed the SCOBY. That's what it's going to eat. So in the end, the tea that you get is really not sweet because the sugar is just feeding the bacteria for the fermentation process. If I want to boil water with the tea kettle on top of the wood stove, I have to take off the oven, so the top and then the base of the oven that sits into the little brackets that fits on the top of the stove, and then I have to take off at least one of the side brackets so that there's space for the tea kettle to actually sit on top of the stove. I don't think it's going to take very long.
No. That's pretty fast.
It's hot over here.
Yeah.
Okay, so while the water is heating up, I'm going to pour sugar, and I'm going to throw my 6 green tea bags in there, and then I'll pour the hot water on top. And then that's really it. You just let it cool down. That's important. Let it cool down before you add the SCOBY, because otherwise you'll cook the SCOBY, and you don't want that. So let it soak. It'll create tea. When it's room temperature, then I'll throw the SCOBY in, and then it sits for like 6-7 days, depending on the flavor that we're going for. The longer it ferments, the more sour the flavor becomes. So the more the bacteria eats the sugar that's in here. So if you want sweeter, you're going to drink it earlier. If you want a stronger flavor, you're going to let it ferment for more days. So, and this will just be an experiment, because we haven't done the kombucha since the great kombucha explosion of 2020. Hopefully we know better now.
I know what you're talking about.
So the water's pretty much boiling now, so I'm going to take that off. And I'm going to pour it on top of this is just the sugar and tea bag mixture. Perfect. So then this is just going to sit, let all the sugar dissolve in there, let the tea bag steep and make tea, and then when it hits room temperature, throw the SCOBY in, cover it with a paper towel and some string, and then just let it ferment for a few days. So I'll keep you updated on, hopefully this one is more tame than the last one we did. Thanks for hanging out with us in the tiny house during this snowstorm. We hope it gave you a little glimpse of what it's like living in such a small space during the winter, because it's definitely more of a challenge. But we are getting excited to share some of our upcoming camping trips. We're going to be taking the Scamp out. We're going to be doing some tent camping, all coming up in the 2021 season.
Well, you worried about you and me, the injustice, the next president to be, the news and what you hear, your career. It's time for you to face those fears, and it's all all fair. To be where and I'll be there, so don't be scared. Just take a deep breath of air. And 1, 2, 3 to 10, you begin to focus again. And though time flies, we'll have enough to realize this bigger than the both of us.